recording, by the way.
It's recording?
Yeah.
Alright. Thanks for joining us again here on Just Conspiracy, and Merry Christmas. It is Christmas. Is it Christmas today?
Yuppity do. I'm behind the scenes. There's gonna be two cameras. This camera and then this camera. I'm gonna do this is the new camera, by the way. By the way, it's my camera. And I got it for Christmas. Anyways,
hey, do you remember making the videos about Bill Gates back in like May?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean the videos about like how Bill Gates owned everything, even Xbox and stuff?
Yeah, and all the patents to everything, and maybe not Bill Gates, but Microsoft.
Okay, yeah, but doesn't Bill Gates own Microsoft?
Yeah. So, anyways, we're gonna put some of those up on this channel because we made it for. What channel did we make it for?
We made it for News Humor, but we don't have the we don't use that anymore. So now we're using Just Conspiracy, where we conspire. I forgot the rest.
Where we just wish to conspire with other good people of the planet to leave a better world for that generation right there. Mm-hmm. A little man in training than the world we all grew up in. So this will be the same introduction on all of those. So stick around and watch the presentation. We hope y'all enjoy it.
Oh, hi, it's my bedtime. I'm just gonna get my drink full so I can have a sip. Okay. Hope y'all stick around for the next video.
Jacob!
Okay, I gotta go. Because, it's my bedtime and my dad's calling me. Okay, see you guys the next video.
What do you seek?
Light.
Then you may enter. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate. And there were 12 gates. Were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as if it were transparent glass. Oh, hey. You remember what we talked about last time?
Conspiracy. I can't say.
Conspiracy theory.
I can't say that
Con.
word. What?
Con. Spear. Issy. Theory.
Conspiracy theory. About Bill Gates with the electronic tattoos.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So you want to talk about that again? You ready to learn more about that?
Yeah.
Alright, because today we're going to learn about the ID 2020 and look at some of the ways he's thinking about implementing that, and also some of the things that have been going on with electronics and money. You ready to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just walk over to the computer and we can get right on it, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Jacob, the first webpage we come to for ID 2020, it looks like it's a conspiracy theory webpage. ID 2020 and partners launch program to provide digital ID with vaccines. But reading through this entire article, and I don't get a whole lot of information about ID 2020 and vaccines, except for the fact that ID 2020 is partnered with Gavi. Let's see what else we can find. Let's start with what is ID 2020, bringing privacy-protecting, portable, and user-centric digital identity to life. Well, this looks like a pretty website. The need for good digital ID is universal. The ability to prove who you are is a fundamental and universal human right. Private, portable, persistent, and personal. Well, it just looks like they're trying to do the right thing and provide people with identity. 1.1 billion people worldwide live without a digital ID. Identity data is outside of the individual's control. Protections for privacy are insufficient. Identity is neither portable nor persistent. A fundamental and universal human right. Article 6 of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights stipulates that everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. The Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030 include Target 16.9, which aims to provide legal identity to all, including birth registration, by 2030. So it looks like they wish to identify everybody by 2030. Here is the United Nations Office for Partnership and ID 2020 Summit 2016. You can see that on all of their screens, it has an ID 2020 that they can read. On Friday, 20 May 2016, ID 2020, a strategic global initiative launched in response to the Sustainable Development Goals 16.9, provide legal identity to all, including birth registration, by 2030. In collaboration with the United Nations Office for Partnership, hosted the ID 2020 Summit, harnessing digital identity for the global community at the United Nations headquarters in New York. In the context of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by world leaders in 2015, with the overreaching goal to leave no one behind, the need to enable people who suffer legal, political, social, and economic exclusion to obtain official identity is clear. In response to this global need, the ID 2020 Summit convened leaders and representatives from the private sector, governments, international organizations, non-governmental organizations, policy analysis, and thought leaders to build across-sector partnerships that contribute to provide all invisible and vulnerable people with legal identity by 2030, to make them visible and restore them into society. So it looks like they're just trying to do this for our benefit, to restore us to society. How nice of them and generous. The ID2020.org Alliance. An approach that is holistic, market-based, and addresses the full scope and scale of the challenge. No government could do it by their own, or private business interests, so they all had to get together. And you can see Accenture and Microsoft here, along with Gavi, the Rockefeller Foundation, so there are a lot of big players in this. As far as the conspiracy theory that Bill Gates is doing this, I don't know if you can actually say this with all of these other entities that appear in the whole ID 2020, but Microsoft is definitely a big part of it. I guess you could take that into account. This is the ID 2020 manifesto, and they talk about being in partnership with the United Nations. Number 3 is to provide identity to over 1 billion people worldwide who do not have this. And again, they're saying to give them a state, to give them basic services. They're doing this for their protection. Number 6, digital identity carries significant risk if not thoughtfully designed and carefully implemented, so they understand the risk that they are carrying with digital identity. Now, something that will come up later is about how digital identity is kept through a blockchain technology system. And here is a patent that was filed by Microsoft. Microsoft is the applicant, and is a patent for cryptocurrency, otherwise known as a blockchain technology system. The cryptocurrency can be mined by having humans be active in day-to-day processes. Whenever you talk about cryptocurrency, obviously everybody thinks about Bitcoin, and here is a market watch talking about Bitcoin enthusiasts. Liberal lawmakers cheer a Fed-backed digital dollar. This is talking about bringing in a digital currency. I have a case to present, and I wish to present it as quickly as possible. Leave your hard-earned time to yourself. That's why I'm going to put up the descriptions below so that you can read all of these things for yourself, see if I'm taking it out of context or not. Senator Brown told the American banker, "My legislation would allow every American to set up a free bank account so they don't have to rely on expensive check cashiers to access their hard-earned money." We come down here. Carlos Domingo is quoted for saying, "The question is not whether if a digital dollar will be created, but when and how. Now, when you're talking about cryptocurrency, this is in Forbes. This is actually an article kind of speaking against having a cryptocurrency, and it kind of goes through the history of currency. It talks about how we used to have certificates that would certify that there was gold in the bank, and you could get the specimen of gold by handing in the gold certificate. And they even give you a nice little example right here. It talks about the history of how the Federal Reserve turns the certificates into notes, and at that point they weren't backed up by anything. And then we get down here to what's a national digital currency. And the part that I am interested in is right here, where they're talking about blockchain. This led to loads of blockchain startups and service companies, with giant corporations infected with bad cases of FOMO, funding pilots and proof of concept. Major companies like Microsoft and IBM now offer blockchain as a service in their cloud product. Microsoft and IBM already offer blockchain as a service in their products. Now, Accenture and Microsoft plan digital IDs for millions of refugees. This was on the 20th of June 2017. That was almost 3 years ago now. And remember, Accenture is one of those organizations that is in partnership with ID 2020. This was published in the BBC News, June 2017. The Digital ID Network was unveiled at the ID 2020 Summit in New York on Monday. ID 2020 is an alliance of governments, private sectors, organizations, and technology companies working together to help UN realize its goal. And of course, that goal would be identifying everybody by 2030. In the future, when a refugee arrives at a camp, their face, irises, and fingerprints could be scanned and the resulting biometric data stored with their name on one of the aid agency's servers. The blockchain digital ID network then creates a stamp, a unique identifier between the refugee and the data on the servers that provides they have been authenticated for each service they receive. If they receive healthcare services in the camp, such as a vaccine, then they receive a stamp. If they receive a vaccine, it will verify on the digital ID that they have a vaccine. And they have been talking about this again since 2017. Here is a publication from the National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. This was published in January of 2019. So nothing new here. Immunization programs and notifications of vital events. Immunization programs are particularly well placed to help with birth registration efforts in these countries. Vaccination sessions are often the first interaction between child and a government-supported system, and a potential opportunity for notification and official registration of vital events. Immunization is often provided widely throughout countries through both health facility services and community outreach. And of course, then they kind of go into some of their statistics, but basically, they're giving away vaccinations so that they can register the children in these companies and get them some type of identification that they call vital events. Down here, coordination of civil registration and vital statistics, strengthening efforts is critical. A broad-based international coalition including state and non-state actors, development partners, civil society, the private sector, and academic institutions is needed to effectively respond to countries' needs and priorities. The ID4D and the ID 2020 Alliance are committed to bringing together governments, civil society, international organizations, and the private sector to efficiently implement digital identity technologies at scale. What is this ID4D? Because I believe this is the first time that we have looked at that. Now, when we come here, this is ID4D. It's sponsored by the World Bank, council members and advisors, and then it has your partnerships right here. Look at this, surprise, surprise. We have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Not only do they support the ID 2020 by Microsoft through the face of Microsoft, but they support the ID 4D with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This is Harvard Business Review. A COVID-19 vaccine will need equitable global distribution. This is an article that was written April 2nd of 2020. Bill Gates, who wrote, "During a pandemic, vaccines and antivirals can't simply be sold to the highest bidder. They should be available and affordable for people who are at the heart of the outbreak and in the greatest need. Not only is such distribution the right thing to do, it is also the right strategy for short-circuiting transmission and preventing future pandemics." If we come down here, identifying residents of developing countries. It's now partnering with Japanese telecom giant NEC to develop an affordable, interoperable biometric solution for vaccines that can identify patients in rural and offline settings. So they basically wish to be able to identify these people anywhere. Using robust digital tools can help government overcome identification barriers to ensure that everyone receives a COVID-19 vaccine. To ensure everybody, all inclusive. So they are talking about giving it to everyone. And again, you can go and read this whole article, but this came from the Harvard Business Review. This is not a conspiracy theory website. So what have we learned today? We have learned that Microsoft is embedded with Digital ID 2020. That Digital ID 2020 has roots with the United Nations and the United Nations efforts to make sure everyone has a legal ID by the year 2030. Microsoft also has a patent for producing cryptocurrency or some type of blockchain technology. That Microsoft and IBM offer blockchain as a service, which would probably be used if there were some type of cryptocurrency implemented. That back in 2017, Accenture and Microsoft were using digital IDs to tell whether refugees had had services such as vaccines. That along with ID 2020, there's also ID 4D, which the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is also sponsoring. So again, it looks like he's backing almost every side of the digital identity game or technology. Why he's doing this? I don't know. That's not for me to judge. You are the jury. That is for you to judge. Thank you for taking a look at all of this. Hey Jacob.
Yeah?
Will you do me a favor? Mm-hmm. Will you go get that book I was reading earlier?
Oh yeah, okay. This book has over 1,000 pages.
Over 1,000 pages. That's a lot of pages, huh?
Yep.
And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. Thank you everybody for joining us. In case anybody's wondering, I'm reading from Revelation, and I'm not very religious, but eventually this book will be part of my argument, along with Bill Gates and his name. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Leave a like, subscribe, click that bell, never miss another video, and share the video because YouTube's algorithm zone. You're our only hope.
That was a good job.
First try.
Right? Bye.
Bye.
Are you gonna do it? Okay, thank you for watching this video all the way to the end if you've made it this far. In the last video, the first video we did in this series about Bill Gates, we'll link it here because what did we do at the end?
We did a vote.
Okay, we did a vote, and in the comments there should be one comment. Jacob?
Yeah, and the other one would be the helpful.
So whichever one you wish for this little man in training to be called throughout these video series, just hit a like on that name, and the name that gets the most likes will be his name for the video series. Thank you, and enjoy your day.
We'll link it up here. Oh, and also if it's a tie, then this is what we're gonna do. On one video, I'm gonna be called.
If it's a tie, Daddy's the tiebreaker.
No, cause I'm also counting as a vote.
Oh, that would be a double tie. I guess we'll just have to trade off names then, huh?
Huh? Yeah.
Well, you guys better not let us down. Peace.
Bye.